Have you ever had one of those gut feelings you just can't explain? Or maybe you felt the entire mood of a room the second you walked in. Well, today, we're diving into that exact power, a kind of sixth sense that goes way beyond what our eyes and ears are telling us.
So do we? Is there really something more than our standard five senses? It's a fantastic question. And according to the material we're looking at today, the answer isn't just a maybe. It's a pretty definite yes. It looks like we all have this fundamental human ability that we just tend to overlook, one that connects us to the world way more directly than we think.
This ability is often called perceptual ability, or ganji li. Now, don't think of it as something mystical or supernatural. It's actually our most original, most basic way of knowing things. It's that gut feeling, right? That immediate sense you get about a situation or a person before your brain even has a chance to slap a label on it.
Here's a really powerful way to think about it. Imagine our consciousness is like an inner fire. Well, our perceptual ability, that's the light that the fire gives off. It's the tangible outward expression of our inner self, lighting up everything we come across.
Okay, so let's start with that inner fire, our consciousness. And we're not just talking about being awake versus being asleep. This is about the very spark that defines life itself. It's what separates a living, feeling being from, just a pile of atoms.
And this perception we're talking about, it's not just one single thing. It's a whole spectrum. It starts with things we can kind of relate to, like reading expressions or sensing an aura. But it goes so much deeper, into understanding the unspoken rhythm in someone's voice, sensing the real meaning behind their words. And it can even stretch into those harder to define intuitive or psychic connections. It's a totally multi-layered system.
But here's the thing, having this kind of highly tuned perceptual ability isn't always a walk in the park. It can really be a double-edged sword. This incredible sensitivity is both an amazing gift and, honestly, a pretty big challenge.
On one side, it's the source of genius, the artist's insight. You can appreciate beauty and nuance on a level most people can't even imagine. It's where profound creativity comes from. But the flip side of that coin is the overwhelmed soul. That exact same sensitivity makes you feel pain, ugliness, and negativity so much more intensely. And that can easily lead to anxiety, burnout, and just feeling fragile.
Vincent van Gogh is maybe the most powerful example of this. It's like he could literally see the emotional fabric of the world around him. But that extraordinary gift was completely intertwined with his immense personal suffering. His genius and his turmoil, they were one and the same.
So, what are the basic traits of this ability? Well, first, it seems to be largely innate. Some people are just born with a finer-tuned antenna, Second, it's incredibly sensitive to all kinds of stimuli. And third, because of that high sensitivity, it's often really unstable. It can fluctuate with your emotions, your health, even the weather.
So, if this whole thing is so unstable, does that mean we're just stuck being victims of it? Absolutely not. The good news is that we can actually learn how to tune our inner receiver. We can shift from being constantly overwhelmed to actually being in control. And the way to do this involves some pretty simple, practical exercises. For instance, you could try really listening mindfully to a piece of music and try to pick out every single instrument, every layer, or just close your eyes and truly feel the texture of the chair you're sitting on. The whole point of these practices is to get your consciousness to fully plug back into the simple act of perceiving.
And that leads us to the most important point here. The goal is not to shut down your senses or turn your perception off. It's to stop being like a passive screen that just absorbs every signal thrown at it, and instead become an active tuner who gets to choose which frequency to focus on.
But look, tuning your senses? That's really only half the battle. To truly get a handle on this ability, we have to build a strong inner foundation. We need an internal structure that can handle all this information we're perceiving without getting totally washed away. So let's imagine this foundation as 3 layers, okay? The one on the very outside, that's our raw perception. It's just the constant, unfiltered flood of sensation data coming at us from the world. All right, the next layer in is our lived experience. This is the whole collection of our memories, the lessons we've learned, the things we've seen. It's what gives context and meaning to all that raw data from the outer layer. And then, finally, we get to the very center. And this is the most crucial layer of all, the inner foundation. In the source material, it's called Su-Young, and it's the stable core that organizes and makes sense of absolutely everything else.
So what exactly is Su-Young? It's not just about being smart or knowing a lot of facts. It's the underlying order of your thinking.
It's a mental framework you build from really deep engagement with big, fundamental fields like philosophy, science, or art. This is what gives you the stability to navigate a chaotic world.
There's this great quote that just nails the idea of building that foundation. Studying supposedly useless things, like philosophy or ancient history, it might not seem practical, right? But these are the very things that forge that deep, stable inner structure, that su-yang, that lets us see the world with real clarity.
And all of this leads us to our final and maybe most profound step. Once we've trained our perception and built up our inner foundation, the ultimate goal of this journey isn't to perceive the outside world even more intensely. It's actually to turn that powerful energy back inward.
There's a concept for this called hui xiao, which basically means to reclaim or to return. See, true mastery isn't about endlessly sending our awareness out there. It's about pulling that perceptive energy back in and returning it to our own center.
So, how do we actually do this reclaiming? Well, the path is actually pretty simple, even though it takes patience. It all starts by turning your attention away from all the external noise and just focusing on an inner rhythm, like your own breath. The goal isn't to stop thinking. It's just to let your thoughts settle down and allow all that scattered energy to gather itself around a stable inner anchor.
And maybe the most powerful realization in all of this is that the final destination of this entire journey is simplicity. The goal isn't to become a more complex person who's armed with more theories and abilities. It's to become more simple, more clear, to have a perception that's razor sharp but is no longer a heavy burden.
So I'll leave you with this final thought from our source material. In a world that is practically designed to constantly pull our attention outward, away from our center, the most important question we can probably ask ourselves is this: how do we find the way back home to ourselves?